Now there are 6 heavy thrusting swords, and all of them have their own unique playstyle and builds that make them really good. However, I'm here to tell you that there are 3 that you absolutely need to try, so I'm going to show you which 3 those are, ranking them from 3rd to 2nd to 1st, and the builds that go along with them. I will do some honorable mentions at the end, so stay tuned for that, but let's go ahead and jump into our number 3. Now starting off in our number 3 slot, we have the Queelign's Greatsword. This is a fantastic faith dexterity based heavy greatsword, and you're going to be able to put together a lot of damage with it if you put it together correctly. Dealing a ton of fire damage is what this weapon is really good at, and with the pierce damage on top of that, you're going to be staggering bosses, crushing through Elden Ring, and overall having a really easy time. This is going to have the standard heavy thrusting sword moveset, and it is, in my opinion, the most fun. I like this entire list, but this weapon is my personal favorite when it comes to the heavy thrusting swords. However, because the other 2 are better, I couldn't let my own personal bias get in the way when telling you which swords were the best. This heavy thrusting sword is also going to give you the most damage out of the flame art infusion, and it's also going to be the longest when it comes to the range of any heavy thrusting sword. Now where this weapon may fall a little bit short and why it's not higher on the list is because it is very situational. If you come across an enemy that's not weak to fire damage, you may need to switch out for a different heavy thrusting sword for your build in order to get the most damage out in that certain situation. But I have found going through at least the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC and endgame of Elden Ring that this weapon does an extraordinary job of getting bosses down quickly while at the same time providing a very fun playstyle. Now for this build, you're going to be using the Queelign's Flame Art Greatsword with the Flame Skewer Ash of War. You're going to use the Fire Serpent Helm with 3 pieces of the Rakshasa armor set. I have the Shard of Alexander, the 2-handed sword talisman, the Fire Scorpion Charm, and the Spear Talisman. For your flask, use the Blood-Sucking Cracktir and the Flame Shrouding Cracktir, and for your buffs, you'll have Flame Grant Me Strength, Golden Vow, and stats are going to be 60 Vigor, 17 Mind, 28 Endurance, 16 Strength, 20 Dexterity, 7 Intelligence, 70 Faith, and 11 Arcane. Next up, for our number 2 weapon, we are going to be putting the one and only Bloody Helice. This is a phenomenal weapon and excels crazy in PvP. You are going to get decent Dexterity and Arcane scaling out of this weapon, and you are going to proc bleed with ease. I absolutely love the Dynast Finesse Ash of War. It allows you to get an iframe dodge, which means you get that invincibility for a few frames as you're retreating from the enemy, and then you can follow it up with a huge heavy thrust. This is going to do a lot of stance damage, and with this weapon, not only are you going to be proccing bleed pretty quickly, but you are also going to have the ability to break stances if you put the build together correctly. Now, on top of your heavy lunge forward within Dynast Finesse, you can follow up with a heavy attack that's going to give you a double slash, allowing you to get even more damage off and build up hemorrhage extraordinarily fast. I think this weapon is amazing and definitely deserves to be in our top 3 for heavy thrusting swords. And per usual, like all the heavy thrusting swords, this weapon is also going to give you pierce damage, allowing you to be every single boss's weakness within Elden Ring. Now, the last thing that I want to say about this weapon is because you cannot infuse this weapon or change out his Ash of War, there is still one more thing you can do in order to get more damage. You can put the entire on-spot set on, and this is going to boost your Dynast Finesse skill a little bit farther. All in all, though, this definitely secures its number 2 slot with ease in our heavy thrusting sword list. Now, this build you're seeing on screen is going to be the Bloody Helice with a dagger with Golden Vow. You're also going to be using at least the White Mask or the on-spot set if that's what you want. You can also use the Shard of Alexander, the 2-handed sword talisman, the Lord of Blood's Exaltation, and Milson's Prosthesis. For your flask, you're going to use the Thorny Cracktir as well as the Blood-Sucking Cracktir. And your stats are over on the left with 60 Vigor, 17 Mind, 25 Endurance, 30 Strength, 65 Dexterity, 9 Intelligence, 8 Faith, and 40 Arcane. Now finally, in our number 1 slot, we have a new weapon that has come to us from the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, and that is going to be the Sword Lance. This weapon exceeds the damage of every other heavy thrusting sword, and it's not even funny. You can do so many different varieties of gameplay and use so many different Ashes of War to make this weapon incredible, and you are going to be out damaging most of the strength weapons within this game. Another interesting thing to note is when you put the bleed affinity on this weapon, like you're seeing here in this video, you get 120 20 bleed on this weapon, which is incredibly overpowered if you put it together with this excessive attack build. It is a fantastic weapon. It is going to carry you through the game without any issue, and when lined up against the other heavy thrusting swords, they just don't stand a chance. And the last interesting thing about this weapon is the fact that your heavy attacks are going to be the same as the heavy thrusting spears, so if you enjoy those, then you will definitely enjoy this. But overall, being first place in the heavy thrusting sword category is no surprise. It just blows past every other heavy thrusting sword in damage, infusion, and overall fun to use. Now for the build, you're going to be using the Blood Sword Lance with the Blood Tax Ash of War. You're going to be using the Ansbach set as well as the White Mask. For talismans, you want the Shard of Alexander, Millicent's Prosthesis, Rotwing Sword Insignia, and the Lord of Blood's Exaltation. For your flask, you want the Thorny Crack Tier and the Blood-Sucking Crack Tier. As far as your buffs go, you'll have Flame Grant Me Strength and Golden Vow, and for your stats, you'll have 60 Vigor, 15 Mind, 23 Endurance, 60 Strength, 14 Dexterity, 7 Intelligence, 15 Faith, and 40 Arcane. Now, just because these three have made it into the top 3, and rightfully so, it doesn't mean that the other heavy thrusting swords are bad by any means. So here is 1 or 2 honorable mentions that you should definitely know about and give a try yourself. First and foremost, we have the Great Epee. This weapon is really fun to use, and its heavy charged R2 is going to give you a phenomenal horizontal swipe to the right, and then the second charge is going to swipe to the left. It gets great damage with a strength affinity, and it scales really well with dexterity and strength, allowing you to put together some quality builds if needed. And the last awesome thing about this weapon is the fact that it can be found in Limgrave, so you could get it at the beginning of the game and use it for your entire playthrough, and at the beginning be very overpowered. And guys, there you have it. That is going to be it for the top 3 best heavy thrusting swords in all of Elden Ring. Let me know if you guys agree or disagree down in the comments below. Any weapons that you thought should have been on this list that weren't, let me know. So with that being said, if you found value in this video and you're enjoying the things you're seeing on the channel, make sure to subscribe on your way out and hit that bell notification. And until next time, stay safe, enjoy the game, and I'll see you in the next one.